Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing all well tonight. Uh, Thank you for joining me. As you can't tell already, this is the Ben Burnside Show, coming at you from Fresno. Uh, just to let you know, in case I'm working on the slogan, I don't remember. I don't really know what the slogan is right now, but my current slogan is I talk about whatever I want. So here we go. Let's start the show. Hey, that's not bad. That's not a bad slogan. Not a bad slogan to work off of. So yeah, but thank you for joining me. I'm getting a little more used to this podcasting stuff as it goes along. It makes sense. Like I've majored in communications and stuff, and like I feel like I'm pretty confident in terms of like public speaking and stuff. So I feel like yeah, I feel like I'm confident in terms of public speaking, and I'm I feel like I fit in pretty well with this kind of format of communicating. So thank you for having me on. This is going to be, as you can already tell from my channel, I'm a huge MMA fan, and I really enjoy covering it. I enjoy watching it. I wish I could do more training. I've only done like like a few pieces of training in my life to really do MMA, or like to in terms of like any martial art really. So, well, unless you count like I was in wrestling, like in my lower grade schools, but besides that, I really haven't done much MMA. But you know, I sure as hell love watching it, and I still do appreciate it as I'm getting older. And I once this pandemic's over, a hobby of mine for working out at least, it would mix in with my working out priority, with my priority of exploring different hobbies and just trying to do stuff that I like to do. I wouldn't mind getting back to MMA training. I don't know. I kind of regret skipping out on that, even though I don't know. I want to go back. So once this pandemic thing's over, uh, I'll go back. I would go now, but I have older family living with me, so I don't feel like going during a pandemic. But yeah, I just want things to get back to normal. I'm kind of sick and tired of this COVID thing. Like it's been 4 months already, and it just you know it needs to end. Whoa, shit! Dropped the can almost. It needs to end. I'm just sick of it. But yeah, it's um, yeah, it's an interesting time to say the least. I think you know, you saw if you saw my I if you if you want to know my opinion on COVID-19, at least as close as it is to where it currently stands today, I would look up the Ben Burnside YouTube video on this channel, COVID-19 numbers on Google. Go ahead and type that in on the search bar, and I'm sure you'll find it. It's like the one or two views on it. Two, I'm being generous. But anyway, I just think, first I was, without getting too much into it, because I want to get into MMA with this video, uh, I just, I wish that it would be, I wish things would open up a little more, if I'm being honest. Not too much, not like what President Trump wants us to do with like opening schools to full capacity. Like I don't think we're ready for that yet, but I think I think we could go a little bit faster than what we're doing, but that's just where I stand on it. But anyway, let's get into the main portion of the show, which is talking Bellator MMA and its upcoming card. Coming at you from where are they having this event? I forgot. This is talking about Bellator MMA. This is Bellator MMA. For those of you who don't know, is a separate MMA organization from the UFC. It's an American organization. There's organizations for MMA all over the world, but I want to say that this is maybe the second biggest MMA organization going today. The UFC bought all the other number two organizations, and then Bellator came and kind of was a weaker number two. So UFC kind of is the dominant monopoly in the sport of MMA, but Bellator still is a pretty legit organization. And you know, when people get released from the UFC, they naturally think of going to the fans naturally think that fighter is going to go to Bellator. So it's you know, it's always a place to go to. They have fun fights. They have commentators and interviewers that feature legendary people of the sport, legendary figures. They have Big John McCarthy, the greatest and most famous MMA referee, bar none, without question, of all time. Written like over 50% at least of the rules of MMA worldwide. He just is a beast. He's maybe the biggest contributor of MMA, or at least in the top five. But they also have former professional fighter like Josh Thompson. They have other guys too. A great roster of speakers on there. A good play-by-play guy, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember his name. Oh, they got Mike Goldberg on there too, who's the most famous. I don't want to say he's the best now. I think John Ennis maybe passed him, or he's going to pass him eventually. Maybe he's still, just because of how long he's done it, maybe the best play-by-play analyst in MMA of all time. Well, no. You got Mauro Ranallo, who did MMA in Japan and does some MMA commentary in Bellator, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, interesting stuff. I think that this will be a hell of a show. There's only 7 fights for this Bellator card, and this is the first show that Bellator has done post-pandemic, like post the start of the pandemic. Bellator has been pretty conservative in terms of their shows, just for reasons of safety, and which I can appreciate. And but you know, with the UFC mastering the art of running shows during this pandemic, not just being the master of perfecting that in the MMA community, but in the entire sports community as a whole. The UFC has really done a good job in making this such a such a normal, seemingly normal event, but it's not. Everyone knows it's in a pandemic, but it feels normal when you watch it almost. You know, they've done a really good job in making their operations to where all the fighters and crew members for each UFC show, they come in and they get tested like 3 times before actually going into the show, and they're in like quarantine within a quarantine, every single person. They're in a hotel room, and the area that they're in of all the buildings around the hotel, it's like a giant quarantine zone. So it's pretty crazy. But apparently Bellator is going to do the same format for the first time for their first show during the pandemic, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Bellator handles this process, since they're going to do it for the first time. I think it will be all right. There's a bunch of smart people working over there, seemingly. So, with Scott Coker leading it, I like that guy. He seems to have a good reputation, even though I don't know him as a fan. That's the Bellator president, and so yeah, this should be an interesting show. Let's look at the fights on the card. To my understanding, there's about 3 prelims on this card, and there's 5 fights on the main card. let's see, it's called Bellator 242. It'll be on the Paramount Network, if I remember correctly. I think it's 5:45 Pacific Standard Time. So that's when the fights will start. So the first fight on the card, the first three of the 7 fights will be in the prelim show, and it will be on Bellator's YouTube channel. So all those fights will be for free. If you have cable, the main card will be on the Paramount Network. So just go there and you'll see the fights. Just check your local listings for the times and all that stuff. First fight will be a heavyweight fight, and it will feature Steve Mallory versus Rudy Shafra. I should let you guys know that I know the Bellator fighters way less than I know the UFC fighters. This is a step below the UFC in terms of popularity and everything, even though they're the number 2 MMA organization probably in the sport today. That's a big step down still. The UFC is way ahead of everybody in terms of being the big show. So that's what happens when they kept eating up, consuming up the number 2 company, and when they kept purchasing those opposing companies. First, it used to be Pride versus the UFC, and Pride was number 1. But I guess Pride had bad business dealings or whatever, so the UFC was growing though, and eventually it got to a point where the UFC consumed up Pride as Pride went out of business. Strikeforce, I think it originated in America with Scott Coker, the president of Bellator, but I don't know what the deal was there. I guess they weren't doing good in business, and UFC eventually purchased Strikeforce. World Extreme Cage Fighting with all the smaller MMA fighters. They were around, but I don't know. I guess they ran out of business too. So the UFC purchased them and gained all their fighters in their roster as well. So the UFC is like way above anybody. They're the mecca of MMA, as far as I'm concerned. As far as everyone's concerned, everyone knows that they're number 1. But Bellator came up after Strikeforce with Scott Coker, and they're just a lower number. They're the lowest number 2, but they're number 2. And I'm glad they're around because it gives the fighters more leverage with the UFC when they discuss contracts. There's some ounce of competition out there for against the UFC. But anyway, let's get into the fight here. First fight in the prelim will be a heavyweight fight. It will be Steve Mallory versus Rudy Shafra. And again, since Bellator is the number 2 company, I won't know any of these fighters, or at least a large amount of these fighters probably. So just keep that in mind. Bear with me. Steve Mallory, Rudy Shafra. I don't know either one of these guys. Let's see. Mallory is 7-0, and these two are heavyweights. So 225 to 265 is heavyweight in MMA. It's crazy. You could be 226. You could be fighting a guy who's almost 40 pounds heavier than you. It's kind of crazy. But he's gotten nothing but finishes in his pro career, mainly submissions. This Steve Mallory, so he's apparently really good on the ground. Let's look at Rudy Shafra. Sounding funnier every time I say it. So he has one loss in his career, and it was his last fight against Tyrell Fortune. Lost by rear naked choke. But he beat Vernon Lewis in Bellator by KO. Beat another guy named John Hill in Bellator by TKO. So he's a finisher. Man, this is going to be a tough fight. I don't know. I'll just go Mallory. I really don't know either fighter though, but you know, the guy's undefeated. He's got momentum, and he's young. He's 22, or no, he's 28. He's 28. Never mind. Rudy is doesn't say his age. It's kind of funny, but let's see. Yeah, this will be interesting. This will be interesting. Next fight, you got Rafael Stotts, who is, I believe, in the camp of Duke Rufus, which has fighters like Tyron Woodley, Gerald Mershart, Anthony Pettis, former lightweight champion. Tyron Woodley is a former welterweight champion. CM Punk, WWE wrestler turned MMA fighter who you know is at a beginner level, but famous guy, CM Punk. They got Sergio Pettis, who's main eventing this card. It looks like we're going to have a lot of guys that are from Duke Rufus's camp, or at least a couple guys that are along with Sergio. It's weird how fight cards in MMA feature a number of fighters that are from the same camp. I feel like that would be hard on the coaches of the fighters in that camp, because all the coaches coach all those guys. So I figured that would be kind of hard. That will be. Rafael, though, is 13-1. He'll be facing an undefeated fighter named Cass Bell. These two are bantamweights. They're at 135 pounds. Cass Bell has been doing nothing but win fights in Bellator as a pro, so he's a legit guy. But Rafael is a notable name. If you're a notable name in MMA, I mean, that means you're known for something, and most likely it's that you're a good fighter. But I've never heard of Cass Bell, even though he's undefeated. You have the only loss Rafael has had was against Merab Dvalishvili, who's in the UFC now and who's going up the ranks in bantamweight. So that's, no shame there. But everybody else he's beaten. I'm gonna go Rafael just by experience. Yeah, I'm gonna go Rafael just by experience. I think he's had more tough fights than Cass, even though all of Cass's fights have been in the big leagues, so to speak, in Bellator. I just think Rafael's a little more experienced, and I don't think Cass will be able to go over that. Final fight in the preliminary part of the show will be Jake Smith. It will be a welterweight fight, so 170 pounds. Jake Smith, who's a welterweight, he will be fighting, as my computer is loading here. Oh, man. He will be fighting Mark Lemminger. Jake Smith has fought. He has fought in Bellator twice, has one win and one loss. Mark Bellinger is 10-1. And let's see here. Big welterweight, 6 foot. The only loss he has is to a guy named Jason Witt. He's beaten everybody else. He's 10-1. But I don't know any of the fighters he's fought. That doesn't mean anything. They can be awesome fighters that I've never heard of. Those definitely exist in MMA. Man, I don't know. I don't really know either fighter. That always sucks when you don't know these fighters really. I guess I'll take Lemminger by decision. I don't know. It's a pick 'em for me. I really don't know either guy that well. So there you go. All right, let's go to the main card. We have first Aaron Pico taking on Chris Hatley Jr. Aaron Pico is an interesting fighter. Uh, he was Bellator booked him as a prodigy, as the new prodigy of the sport. He has all the amazing decorated accolades, and he was only 20, I believe, when he came in. He was ready. He was like a super high level boxer, like a national champion or something like that, wrestler, just crazy, crazy level of wrestling. Um, so he was like a prodigy to a lot of people's eyes when he came in. But he is 5-3, and he easily could be 8-0, but he's just made dumb mistakes. He's made dumb mistakes in his career to where, he should have, I don't get it. He just, well, the first fight he got caught with a guillotine. He tried to use his wrestling and take a guy down, but the guy caught him in a guillotine. I believe that was in his debut, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, damn. In his last three fights, two of them have been losses. So two of his three fights have been in his last three fights, or two of his three losses have been in his last three fights. He lost. But his last fight though he won. He beat Daniel Carey by KO with a punch. So he's a hell of a boxer, like I said. But this guy, they were eyeing him to be a champion, and that's just not the case right now. He still can be. He's only 23 years old. I mean, still can be, but he's got to, I don't know. I'm only a fan. I'm only an MMA fan. But I think, it's just surprising to me. And he is facing a tough opponent here. He is facing Chris Hatley Jr. Hatley, I've never heard of the guy, but I already can tell he's a tough guy because he beat Gaston Bolanos by split decision, and Gaston's another highly touted person in Bellator. He could be a champion just because of his crazy kickboxing skills. But Hatley beat him. So this will be interesting. This will be an interesting fight. Especially interesting if it goes to the ground. I wonder how much it will, because maybe Hatley tried to take Gaston down, and that's why he won the fight. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to take Pico on that one. I think Pico is, getting smarter and smarter, and I think he's hungry for a win, and I think he'll get it. He's not even in his prime yet, which is the scariest part. Next fight, third from the last, will be Taiwan Claxton versus J.J. Wilson. Let's see here. Taiwan I've heard of. Is Taiwan the guy? No, he's not. I thought Taiwan was the guy that was from Compton, but he is from Cleveland. But he is a hell of a fighter. The only fight he's lost to was from Emmanuel Sanchez, who's a really high-level featherweight. In his last fight, he beat Braden Akio by decision. So, yeah. It should be interesting. He's beaten everybody else, though, pretty handily, except for one guy by decision. But everyone else he's beaten by KO. Taiwan seems to be a guy who's going up in his career. He's 27, so he's still young, so it'd be interesting. They're not giving him an easy fight though. His opponent will be J.J. Wilson, who's only 22 years old, 5'10". Oh, that's not super tall. 5'10", 145. This is a featherweight division fight, by the way. He's beaten every fight he's had was in Bellator for his pro career, and he has finished every opponent. So this is not an easy fighter. He's from Auckland. Okay, he's not. I was wondering if he was in that famous camp in New Zealand, but doesn't look like that's the case. I'm still gonna take Claxton. I think he's maybe a little more experienced than this guy, but I don't know. Taiwan Claxton could very easily lose this fight. This is a hard fight. So, yeah, this will be interesting. Be an interesting fight. All right, the next fight is going to be Jordan Mee against Jason Jackson. This will be the co-main event of the evening. Mean has been around for a little bit now. He's already had 43 fights, and he's only 30. Jackson has had 15 fights, and how old is he? Jason Jackson, though, I've seen around. He's 29. So he's less damaged, I guess, than Mean, probably. Less Mean's fights all ended very quickly, which they didn't. He's had a few losses in his career, but he's had a first fight in his pro career. He fought another Canadian in Rory McDonald, who's a legend in the sport already. Lost by rear naked choke. Then he's had a number of wins and losses, mostly wins though in his career, to where he rose up in the ranks, and he beat Joe Riggs, who's like a former UFC title challenger. Older guy, but still, that's very impressive to beat him. Then he's even before Bellator, he beat guys like Josh Berkman by decision. He was in Strikeforce. He beat looks like Cyborg Santos by TKO. That's pretty impressive. Lost to Tyron Woodley though, but only by split decision. Beat other guys. Was in the UFC for a little bit. Beat Dan Miller by TKO. Lost to Matt Brown, no shame there. Beat two other guys, including Matt Pyle by TKO. But then had 3 straight losses. Let's see, he lost to Thiago Alves, no shame there. Lost to Emil Meek by unanimous decision. Lost to Bilal Muhammad by unanimous decision. But then he fought as recently as Alvarez versus Poirier 2, which ain't that long ago. Summer 2 years ago. So he hasn't fought in 2 years. It's pretty crazy. He's in his prime and he hasn't fought for that long. Some of it's COVID, but not all of it. He beat, on his way out of the UFC, he beat Eric Silva, and he beat Alex Moreno, both by decision. So, pretty impressive. He will fight Jason Jackson, who's an impressive fighter as well. I believe he's won titles in places like Titan FC and stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. He was in The Ultimate Fighter. I remember him on there. He definitely fought in The Ultimate Fighter. Lost to Colby Covington in early in his pro career, but beat Michael Johnson by submission. That's impressive. Lost to Haider Hassan. Okay, that's who's another UFC alum. He's fought some top-notch competition from the get-go. Beat a number of guys, including Diego Lima, He appeared in the Dana White Contender Series, lost there. Beat some other guys. Then lost to Ed Ruth in Bellator for his debut. That's a hard opening into Bellator, but he beat Kilichi Kunimoto by decision. This will be a tough fight. I don't really know. This can go either way. Man, the welterweight division is just ruthless. It's a ruthless division, almost as hard as the lightweight division. I don't know. This could go either way. I'm going to take Jordan Mean, just barely, though. Barely. I think it will be a learning experience for both guys. Yeah. Tough go. Tough go for both guys. I just think Jordan Mean has a little more experience, clearly, and he still has it. He doesn't seem like a fighter that's on the decline because of having too many fights. I'll take Jordan Mean. And finally, the main 25 pounds. I don't know what the main event was supposed to be, if there even was one, but I heard it got canceled for some reason. I just heard that through watching the podcast between the two commentators of Bellator, Josh Thompson and John McCarthy. Josh Thompson's more of an analyst, but you know what I mean. But let's see. Yep, this will be a flyweight fight. No, bantamweight. Never mind. Bantamweight. Ricky's 28, 13-3, and I think he's been in Bellator for a while now. Been a pro. Has a win over Merab Dubashali, who I mentioned earlier. That's impressive. Beat a lot of guys I'm not sure of. He beat James Gallagher. Oh, that's the guy who knocked out James Gallagher. Pretty viciously, too. That was brutal. James Gallagher was a highly touted Irish prospect who was under Conor McGregor's camp, and he carried himself like Conor McGregor. He might still be like only 20 years old, or like 21. But he's super young. That's what he's known for. And he ended up getting knocked. He talked a lot of trash to Bandejas, but he ended up losing, getting knocked out by him. And it was a memorable KO. So there you go. He lost to two other guys after that. Juan Archuleta, who's a tough fight, and a guy named Patrick Nix. But he's won his last two fights, both by KO. So this guy's no slouch. He will be fighting Sergio Pettis. Sergio's typically a flyweight, but he might go up to bantamweight for this fight. He's won a number of. Sergio's been around for a while at only 26 years old. The guy's my age, only 26, and he's the brother of the former, already a legend in the sport, a former UFC flyweight champion, Anthony Pettis, the younger brother. Sergio was close to fighting for the UFC flyweight title, but he just didn't make it. I think he lost to Henry Cejudo. I think that's what happened. But let's take a look at his record. He's had one Bellator fight, but I'll get to that. He won when he turned pro. He was undefeated as an amateur, but when he turned pro, he won his first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6. He won his first 10 pro fights, including his UFC debut against Will Campuzano. But then he lost to Alex Caceres by rear naked choke. So there you go. That was his first loss. Then he had two more UFC fights after that, won both by decision. Then he lost to Ryan Benoit by TKO. But then Sergio got in a serious role to where he was considered next for the flyweight championship. He beat Chris Carriasso by decision, beat Chris Kalidas by decision, beat John Moraga by decision, and beat a young Brandon Moreno by decision, who might be fighting next, challenging next for the flyweight title now. But then he lost to Henry Cejudo, and we all know how big Henry Cejudo is in MMA now. Beat Joe Benavidez. I thought he lost that fight. I saw that fight. I thought he lost, but they picked him. Joe was a challenger for the title, so Sergio's right there in terms of top guys. Then he lost to UCA by decision, lost to Rob Font by decision. Rob had to be a. Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. He lost his. He turned into a bantamweight at some point. So he lost to Rob Font, but he beat Tyson Nam by decision for his last UFC fight, and he just debuted in Bellator, and he choked out Alfred Kashakian in the Buds versus Cyborg event in January. So it's an interesting card, man. I'm just off that list alone. I'm gonna take Sergio Pettis to beat Ricky Bandejas, even though Ricky has faced a lot of tough guys in Bellator. I don't know. I just think Sergio has faced the most elite fighters, arguably in the UFC. He's stood toe to toe with Henry Cejudo. I mean, Sergio's there. He's one of the top guys. So I just don't think Ricky has been on the same level. So in terms of competition. So, and I think Sergio's going to edge him. I really do. And he's more experienced than Ricky too, even though Ricky's a couple of years older. So that's who I am going to pick to win the main event. And I think Sergio is going to fight for the Bellator Bantamweight Championship very soon. Could be that guy. Alrighty, and I think that will be the show for now for this first Bellator show. I really hope it goes well. That's just my hope. I really hope it goes well. So that's what I have to say about it. Best of luck to Bellator as it goes forward. Anyway, keep in touch with the channel. I will be releasing a couple more videos that I'm already thinking of right now in terms of MMA within tomorrow or the next day. So keep watch of that. That will involve my predictions for this coming weekend's Fight Island card with Till versus Whitaker, and my review of the last Saturday card. I know I'm late on that, but between what was it? It was Benavidez versus Figueiredo for the flyweight title. I saw the whole show. I got to review that. All right, and that's the show. So watch all the videos on the channel, please. Like and subscribe. It helps a lot. I really appreciate it. And thank you for joining me. And stay tuned next time for my next show. And until then, I will catch you on the Burnside. See you later.